thank you very much for that introduction. I'm very happy to be here today to talk to you about delivering Urban FIA data through My City's Trees. Let me get this set up. So this portion of the webinar will be a live demonstration. You should be able to see my screen. Please let me know, somebody, if you cannot. If you would like to make the presentation full screen for this part, you're able to do that on your end by clicking the icon with 4 arrows on the upper right of the presentation portion. So with that, I'll get started. Nancy gave us a great overview of Urban FIA. Thank you very much for that. Urban FIA, as we know, provides rigorous, valuable information about urban forests. However, if you are familiar with FIA, you know that it requires quite a bit of expertise to properly manipulate the data, but stakeholders need to be able to use the data without having to invest in that kind of expertise. So to meet those needs, Texas A&M Forest Service and the U.S. Forest Service partnered to develop My City's Trees. My City's Trees is a web-based application that can be run in a browser, on a desktop, or a tablet. It brings Urban FIA to life and puts it in the hands of people who can use it. Data for all cities in the nation participating in Urban FIA will be included, but how it's viewed can vary from city to city. And I'll come back to that later. But first, how do you get to it? Just mycitiestrees.com, pretty easy to remember. And the first page you see when you go to mycitiestrees.com provides general information about the application and Urban FIA, including what cities are participating. We have this scrolling thing here, a description of the app that's kind of an overview of what it does, and then a little bit of information about Urban FIA and Texas A&M Forest Service in general.
Rebekah, sorry to interrupt you. This is Sarah. I just wanted to ask you to restart the screen share on your end. We're having a little bit of difficulty seeing your screen. A lot of us are getting blue checkers.
Okay.
Oh, we just had it for a second. But yeah, I think maybe if you stop sharing and then restart, maybe we'll see it then. Okay, great.
Okay, do you see it now?
We do. Thanks so much.
Okay. Great. Okay, so now that you're seeing it, thankfully we weren't too far in. This first page that you see has the overview. You have the participating cities, overview of the application, what it does, and then Urban FIA and Texas A&M Forest Service. And that gets us caught up. Also on this page, we have support and contact information. If you click support, there's a PDF that can help you get started, or another thing it's nice for is kind of showing other people what the app can do if you just have a file and don't have access to the app itself. Also on this screen, you can sign up for updates to be notified when we make updates to the application or add data to it. So check that out. That said, there's no better way to learn how this works than to just use it. So let's dive in, and we'll use My City's Trees to explore Urban FIA results together now. So to go to the app, you just click that Open Application button, and when you first open it, you see an overview map showing Urban FIA cities. The gray cities are participating, but they don't have enough data yet collected and processed to be in My City's Trees. The red cities do have data in My City's Trees. And these, again, this is what Nancy was talking about with accelerating. Austin and Houston accelerated to get that first set of data collected more quickly so that they could have some results to start with. And so those are the two cities we have available right now. Just basic overview of the setup. Over on the right, you have basic map navigation tools, all stuff that you're probably used to. This home button takes you back to the splash page where we started, and this X over here just hides and shows the left panel. And then one last thing, this gray bar shows the status of what you're looking at. The basic flow of the app is to select a city, select a theme, and then select classes. And at any point after selecting a city, you can view inventory statistics and generate a report. So, kind of boring stuff, how to click buttons. Let's go through an example. And what I want to look at here is emerald ash borer, one of the biggest threats to urban forests right now. One of the first steps in managing that threat is to understand the potential impact. So let's say you work for the city of Austin and are responsible for stormwater management. You can use My City's trees to see how much surface water runoff is reduced by ash trees in the city. So first, we select a city. So go over here and click Austin. You can also select a city just by clicking on it on the map. So we do that, and you notice we zoomed in to Austin, and also this panel over here populated. So that left side of that box shows the numbers for the whole city, while the right side is the selected area that you're looking at. Right now, we're looking at the whole city, so the numbers are the same on both sides. And here we have the area of the city, its population, and the number of plots that are going into the estimates for it. Once we've selected a city, we can look at themes. And themes are how we tailor results to different cities. They're a way of breaking down the estimates to look at different areas within the city. Themes are chosen on a city-by-city basis so they can be locally relevant, and that's our goal here with this application. So in Austin, we have land cover, city growth, watershed, and ecoregion for themes. The watershed theme for Austin uses the city's watershed regulation areas, which it uses in development planning for watershed protection. So how do I know that? If you click the I, you get a short description of each of the themes, so we can see those areas come from Austin, and they are related to their development planning. So if we select that, once the theme is selected, classes become available to us as well. So we see the different classes within the watershed theme. And again, if you click the I, you get a little bit more information about those. So if we read the descriptions here, which don't feel like you need to, but we can learn that the suburban and urban watershed areas are part of the desired development zone, which is our primary area of concern for runoff. The other watersheds are concerned with protection, and they have stricter guidelines for development. Okay, so since our interest is in the suburban and urban watershed areas, we will turn off the other classes. You can see as I do that, that these numbers update. So now we're just looking at suburban and urban, and we see that's 65% of the area of Austin, and it's 77% of its population. So now we have our area selected. We're ready to start investigating inventory statistics. So you can see we have tree counts, carbon storage, compensatory value, leaf biomass, energy savings, runoff reduction, avoided pollution, and health effects, all available to look at. But right now, we are interested in the runoff tab, so I'm going to go there. And we see that the trees in those two selected watershed areas reduce surface water runoff by 29 million cubic feet per year, and that's 45% of the total amount of runoff reduction in the city. And the top three species for avoided runoff are cedar elm, live oak, and sugarberry. But we're interested in ash for EAB mitigation, and it doesn't tell us about that. So we go to this, again, clicking an I, always a good thing to do. It gives us a little bit more detail, and now we can see that green ash ranks 5th in the amount of runoff reduction in Austin in those two watershed areas. We want to see the total effect of ash. We can sort this table by scientific name, and then we see all the facts in this here grouped together. And if you add those numbers up, we find ash species reduce surface water runoff by 2.6 million cubic feet per year, which is 8.9% of the total runoff avoided in the area. These estimates are also broken out by private and public here. So we can see that a little less than a quarter of the ash runoff reduction is on public land. All this information can help inform management decisions to mitigate the effects of emerald ash borer. So that's one example. Now let's switch gears and look at an issue in Houston, income distribution. So I want to go back to the city selection and pick Houston. And we can look at the themes. And for Houston, we have land cover, city growth, watershed, and income. So again, to see more information about these, click the I. For example, the watershed theme then is based on combinations of Harris County Flood Control District watersheds, but limited to the extent of the city. Income is median household income information from the Census Bureau, and that's the one we want. So I'll select it over here. Now that it's selected, we have classes. But before we really get into that, let's take a look at some of the other inventory stats that I've brushed over in Austin. So taking a look, we see there are 33 million trees in Houston, and the top 3 species are yaupon, Chinese tallow tree, and Chinese privet. Moving to the next one, Houston's trees store 2 million tons of carbon, and the top 3 carbon storing species are live oak, loblolly pine, and water oak. Compensatory value is $16.3 billion, and leaf biomass 175,507 oven dry tons. Energy is interesting. So residential energy savings, electricity and fuel use avoided because of trees amounts to $54 million, saving each person in Houston an average of $25.70 a year. Houston's trees also intercept 173 million cubic feet of surface water runoff each year, and they remove 2,415 tons of air pollution every year, which avoids health costs of over $20 million. Now, quick overview of those just to show you what's there. Let's go back to income and look at our classes here. So we have 30,000 less, 30,000 to 40,000, 40 to 53, 53 to 80, and then higher than that. And I'm going to generate a report here so we can kind of see the breakdowns by class. So we start with a map, and then basic overview of kind of the demographic type information, the same stuff that's up in that top part of the left panel. So we can see acres and plots are pretty evenly distributed between the classes, and population is fairly even, except there's an imbalance between the lowest and highest classes, with the lowest having a larger share of the population. Scrolling down to count, we see that, again, a pretty even distribution of numbers of trees, except there's a dip in the $53,000 to $80,000 class. And Other interesting thing to note here is that the lowest and highest classes have about the same percentage of trees, but if you remember the population, that means that the highest class has about double per person. If we go down a little farther to carbon, looking at per person, it's about the same for the highest and lowest class, which is because there's again, remembering that difference between population and then the number of trees, we see there's about double the amount of carbon in the lowest income class, but then that evens out the per person numbers to be about the same. So now that we've gotten kind of a basic idea of what the income classes look like, let's dig a little deeper into them and start by looking at just the lowest two classes, and then we'll look at the highest two. Okay, so I have those two selected, and I'm going to open this detailed window. Here we see that about 20, and I'm in health. I want to look at numbers of trees. So whichever tab you're selected here is what opens in the detailed window. Good to know. I want to look at numbers of trees. So we see here, once it loads, about 25% of trees in those lowest two income classes are publicly owned. If we go look at the species a little bit, 3.7 million trees publicly owned, 2 million are Chinese tallow trees. So over half of the publicly owned trees in this area are an invasive species. Now I'm going to switch and look at the two highest classes. And in this area, we have 47% of the trees publicly owned. A much lower percentage of those are Chinese tallow tree, just 270,000 out of 5.2 million. So now that we've seen both of those, I'm going to flip back to the lowest two classes just to tie it up. So again, the most abundant species here is an invasive species, and the vast majority of that occurs on public land. So this seems like a great opportunity for local government to use urban forest management to accomplish multiple outcomes. They can manage an invasive species while also improving environmental benefits for people with low income. Those are the two examples I have to go through today. I hope that going through them has helped show how My City's Trees can be used to turn Urban FIA data into action. The data has been used to inform a regional urban forest plan for Houston, among other things. So we know of uses, but if we could cut down the time between data collection and data availability in the app, I'm sure we would have a lot more stories of how Urban FIA data is being used. And one of the main strengths we've touted of FIA as we approach cities to participate in this program is that continuous picture of the urban forest that it provides. But the data we have right now in this application for Austin and Houston are from 2014 and 2015. So we're not quite keeping up with the new data as it's coming out with processing issues. And we're waiting for data collected in San Diego and San Antonio in 2017. As soon as that's processed, we'll get it into My City's Trees. And then that in addition to the newer measurements for Austin and Houston. One last thing I want to mention is that we're making a number of improvements to the application, so please stay tuned. Just mention a couple of things that are coming. Look for a better report generation. The one you saw today looks fairly nice in the application, but when you go to print it, it's not as great. So we're improving that. We're adding diameter class data and a lot more. So please check back and see what we're doing. Thank you.